Hello and welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. And as we promised on the last show, we have a former player interview. I'm delighted to welcome to the show today former Aberdeen player Theo Ten Caat. And Theo, great to have you on the podcast. Of course, recently published your book, Standing Free,
Yeah.
the Times of Theo Ten Caat. We'll talk about your book, but also your time at the club as well. But first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Glen.
And thank
Pleasure.
you very much for coming on.
Right.
I know you've had a very busy week and you're not long in the door from training. We're recording this on Friday. It's 9 o'clock your time over in the Netherlands as well. So I appreciate giving up your Friday evening for this.
Well, I just had my first coffee, so.
Yeah, so we're in for a good night now. As I said to you when we were discussing through the week ahead of this interview, we'll do some quick fire icebreaker questions,
Right.
a little bit of humor.
Right.
So the first one, as I teased to you already, was going to be if you had to choose a snack to go with your coffee, would you have a stroopwafel or would you have a rowie?
I was thinking about that one. I mean, I like the stroopwafels, especially when you're hungry
Yeah.
and you've got nothing to eat, and the stroopwafel is a lot of sugar in it.
Hmm.
And if you warm the stroopwafel a bit, it's even nicer.
Hmm.
The stroopwafel is typical Dutch. But the Skittles, I mean, if you buy a bag and you put it in the car, it's
Yeah.
empty before you know it.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very much so.
So, I mean, that's the 50-50 one. I like yeah, you've got that. I mean, that's the reason I've never buy candy in my car, because before you know the it's empty.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah,
both
that's it.
both
Yeah,
good
and
snacks.
they're really good. I mean, the Skittles. You call it Skittles, eh?
Yeah, the Rowies, the one that you Dave
Yeah,
Cormack made with
yeah,
the
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I love them. I love them. Really, they're really nice, and I ate probably too much of them, because when you empty the whole lot, I mean, you feel sick after.
yeah, yeah, definitely if you're having a whole packet.
Yeah, the whole
Um,
packet. Yeah.
you're on the coffee just now, but if you were to go for an alcoholic drink, we're keeping this on the Netherlands versus Scotland theme just now. Would you prefer a Heineken or a pint of Tennent's
Well, I'm not a beer drinker, Glenn.
or whiskey then?
Yes, I would. I've got my whiskeys at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
So
what would be your whiskey of choice?
tomorrow night after the game, I got my I take my bottle of whiskey out of the cupboard, one or two, and then I sleep as Don Roche, as we say. That's a very
Um, onto a footballing question as well. We discussed before we started recording. You've played in a lot of derby games.
aye,
During your time in the Netherlands, the Twente Derby, the Derby of the North, which is the game between Groningen and Heerenveen. You've also played in Aberdeen Rangers games as well. Out of
aye.
those three types of games, which did you enjoy the most, and which would you have said was the most fierce?
But the most fierce is most of the time the most you enjoy. I
Okay.
mean, if you play against Rangers or Celtic, I mean, that's pretty high standard. A lot of spectators, a lot of tension before the game, and during the game with the supporters. I mean, it's an amazing event. It's an event. It's not only a football game. It's a battle. You have to survive, and you have to be on your best. Both sides. I mean, especially when I played for Aberdeen. I mean, the year before, Aberdeen almost won the league. They lost
Hmm.
it in the last game against Rangers. Haley did something of a doing with a couple of guys, as I've been told. But I mean, 2 months later, we won at Ibrox with 2-0.
Hmm.
That was my first game at Ibrox. And the thing is, the stadiums, when I was in the 90s, early 90s in Aberdeen, the stadiums were pretty uh, uh, well. You can't say that about Celtic and Rangers and Aberdeen, but it's kind of atmosphere you've got there. There's history all over the place. If you go to Falkirk, you feel the yeah. I mean, it's Falkirk was a little stadium, but I like to play there because it's really narrow to the pitch. So that's all those kind of things. And if you mention the derbies with Twente against Heracles, Gold Eagles, and Zwolle, that's a nightmare as well because they stay in the same county, so
Hmm.
they hate each other so badly as the Aberdeen players and supporters hate Rangers.
Mm.
And I played also with FC Twente against Groningen, and that's even worse because the spectators of the fans of Twente and Groningen, if they could kill each other, they would probably will. And then you've got Groningen Heerenveen. I played in that one. That's a bit. It's called a derby, but it's nicer.
Mm.
It's not a battle. We want to you want to win the game, but it's not as fearless as fierce as you can say a game against Rangers or Celtic. It's you can't
Mhm.
compare that. It's a totally different kind of atmosphere and attitude towards. I mean, if you play against Rangers, you're full of adrenaline and testosterone the whole week in the training
Mm.
session because you go to Ibrex or the Huns they come to Hunt to Pitori. I
Mhm.
mean, you live you live just the whole week. You don't think even about your family anymore. You only think about playing against Rangers or playing against Celtic. That's the two
Mhm.
game. You just want to win against those teams, whatever it takes.
Yeah, hopefully a few of the players have that attitude when we come up against Rangers in a few
Right.
weeks' time, and actually,
Yeah.
to be honest, have that attitude in the semi-final
Yeah.
coming up as well. That's a really good attitude to have. You
Mm.
mentioned the passion and the atmosphere of the games, as you said in your first experience playing at Ibrox, but also
Right.
the games in the Netherlands. How did the passion and the atmosphere for you compare in your time in Scotland to your time in the Netherlands?
Well, the atmosphere is completely different. I mean, the fans in Scotland, they're amazing. We Dutch, we're a bit, well, how should I put this? We've got some, I mean, FC Twente nowadays, they've got a really good crowd. But when I played there, the average was about 13 or 14 or 15, and uh, they were a bit quiet. You can't compare the supporters of the Dutch league, comparing them with the Scottish league. It's totally
Mm.
different. I mean, the people. I mean, it's really a kind of a strange thing because the Dutch they think they're the best of the world. Huh? That's
Yeah.
how the Dutch think about themselves. We've got the best
Mhm.
players of the world. Eh? Uh, but if you look at the league just now, I mean, it's awful. I hardly watch Dutch football anymore.
Mm.
I mean, if I watch a Dutch game, I close my eyes after 50 minutes because there's no passion, there's no battle, there's no fighting, there's no spirit, and uh, the ball goes around and it goes back, and if you look last. I saw a game against Dundee. I mean, most of the games of Aberdeen I watch on YouTube. And
Mhm.
there's always passion. There's always an atmosphere you can't compare with anybody. Not
Mhm.
especially not with the Dutch league. The English league is probably a bit the same. The standard in England is actually better football-wise because they've got a lot of foreigners,
Mhm.
international top players, which is the lack of the Scottish League just now. There are no international top players in the Scottish League anymore. They
Mhm.
all left for the big money, and if there is a talented young Scottish player, he's going to England anyway.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, which is a
that's
shame.
actually the same now in Holland. But when I played with Groningen in Twente, we had international top players. PSV won the Champions League, European Cup in '88,
Mhm.
and I always say PSV and the Dutch won in the Dutch national team won in '88 the European Championship. But
Yeah.
in my opinion, PSV had a better side because there are a lot of international top players as well. PSV at that time, Ansela was playing there, but he was on the but he hardly had he played with PSV, but Erik Gerrits, Belgium, Romario, Brazil, Ivan Nielsen. I mean, you can mention a lot of international top players playing for PSV at that time,
Mhm.
and they weren't playing for Holland. So I would see if PSV at that time would play against the Dutch team who won the European Championship.
Mhm.
I put my money on PSV at that time.
Mm. It'll be
Yeah,
interesting, to see
aye,
if anyone can create a simulation of that to see what the
aye.
outcome
Well,
would
it's
be.
not possible because a lot of PSV players were playing it for the
Yeah.
Dutch national league as well, for the Dutch national team as well. So
You mentioned there about the, academy, and I want to come on to that in a second, but, for you as a youngster growing up in a small village in
aye.
the eastern side of the Netherlands, what was that like for you in gaining your initial footballing experiences as a kid?
Well, you just play it with yourself, and that's the problem nowadays as well. I played six times a day with the ball
Mhm,
before I went to school. When we had a little break on school, I took the ball. When we had lunch, I went home, and then we had still a half an hour to play with the boys together. I mean, they weren't really that good at that time. I mean, but most of the time, I was the best player at the time. But you learn a lot by just training or training. It's not a training session. It's just playing with kids,
mhm.
playing football because that's the only thing we had at the time. Or go to the forest trying to find bird eggs. But then you had to climb in the trees.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good in that one as well because and nowadays the kids, what are the kids doing just now? They have their training session 2 or 3 times a week, most of the time 2 times with the
Mhm,
trainer, and the trainer decides. When we were young, when we were tired, we said we stop. If we had a conversation or a battle, we had to solve the problem ourselves. And
mhm.
that's also a reason that in that era, uh, leadership was not natural born.
Mm.
And if you look at the international football, uh, where are the real leaders now? There aren't real leaders now. There aren't Willie Millers in Scotland anymore,
Yeah,
for an
yeah,
example. Huh?
yeah, very true. And I guess as you
And
you probably have to that was more created in
this,
your era.
yeah, we had to solve themselves. So there's always a guy who's taking the responsibility, and then that guy, if he was a good player, he become the leader in a team. I had many leaders in the team when I was a young kid, and
Uh,
later on, you become a leader yourself because you've learned that when you were a young kid, and you
mhm.
don't let yourself fool. And that was
And I
also
guess
that's also sometimes that isn't easy for a manager as well, because uh, I was stubborn as well. I wasn't the easiest person to work with.
I can.
When I had the idea, I was right. I was right. I mean, and when I had a discussion, I always said, okay, I want to have a discussion with you, but then not as a player manager, but then we're gonna discuss on how do you say that, on facts,
Mhm,
opinions, or whatever, so that whatever I can say anything to you, you can say anything to me.
mhm. I think
So
that's also a very Dutch trait as well, and as I said, I can almost say that a little bit with having, a Dutch father, the stubbornness and the directness
aye,
that comes across from, from people from the Netherlands.
aye, yeah, we're stubborn people sometimes. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's interesting hearing you, you speak about the kind of the leadership and the development and, you know, I think, there's nothing wrong with being stubborn and direct, trying to make your way in a career path, whether that's football or the professional world as well.
aye.
But I know you have a lot of involvement in youth academies and training youngsters now. What's the major differences that you see from your time coming through the academies as a child to teaching kids nowadays?
Well, when I was going to Twente, I just played amateur. There wasn't an academy at that time. We're talking about the early 80s and the end 70s. I was playing just for an amateur team, small amateur team in my village. Then I went to an amateur team in Hogeveen. That was a bit higher up, better football players. And then from when I was 16, I became a member of the first team squad. No, so that takes half a year. Then you're the best player in the first team squad, and they played on the highest level in Holland. And
Mhm,
then you get a chance to play professional because they see you play. And that's the reason I went to FC Twente in 1984. Uh, so we didn't have an academy at that time. The
mhm,
academy came later because the Dutch Football Association saw that the kids weren't playing that football anymore as we did when we were young. So
mhm,
they created an academy, and with the license, every professional football team needed an academy to get the license to play professional football team. So that's the reason the academies came.
mhm,
But there's a difference between playing in an academy and playing just for yourself with your friends, even if the standard in the academy is higher. But it's all organized, it's all settled. The coach, now you've got the computers, you have to do this, you have to do that. You've got lots of things. The data is a big issue as well. And if you look at
mhm,
data, the performance coaches, they say, well, it's all individual. I mean, and then they say you're allowed to play 70 games in a heart rate of 140, 180. If you go
mhm,
over the under 80, you're not allowed, you have to step out. I've
mhm.
trained with FC Twente uh, throwing up after a training session. I've trained with FC Twente sitting down after a training session and I couldn't see anymore because my oxygen wasn't in my head anymore. It was in my
Mm,
legs, and I was blind. I wasn't blind, but I couldn't see for 15 minutes.
mm,
So you just at that time you just crushed. You came totally in the red. And
yeah.
nowadays, nobody comes in the red anymore. I sometimes see players who get an hamstring injury after 30 minutes, and I think, how is that possible? You get a hamstring injury after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just the warm up you did after 30 minutes. Then it starts. It starts
Yeah.
after 60 minutes. That makes the difference between fitness. I mean, anybody, any football player in these days can play a 60-minute game.
Mhm.
But from the 60s till the 90s, 90 minutes, that makes a difference. But if you never come in the red, you get your injuries at the end of the game. You can
Mhm.
see it everywhere, international football as well. I mean, they're falling down. Yeah, well, they fall down all the time because there's no respect anymore. They got it doing, and they fall down. That was, I mean, the whole atmosphere in football. They've got a sign on there, respect.
Mhm.
Just put that respect away because you don't have respect for another because you're standing on foot for purpose. I see challenges I've never seen in my football career. Not
Mhm.
even playing against Rangers. No,
Um,
it was always honest. It was hard. It was on the ball, but there wasn't an intention to injury a player on purpose.
yeah.
And you weren't diving. I mean, Arjen Robben started with it. Well, some Germans did the Swalber. But I mean, when Robin did it in Mexico, when they get a penalty, I mean the whole Dutch national, the whole Dutch family, 80 million people were cheering because he was diving. I
Mhm.
mean, it was so unsported. It's how can you? Well, that's my opinion. I go for fair play, but
Mhm.
he should have been banned of the game.
Yeah.
Saying it a
Absolutely.
bit, it's a bit overacted, but I mean, you know what I mean. It's
Mhm.
there. Well, the game really changed, and as I said before, you don't see any leaders anymore.
Mhm.
Mention a leader now. I don't know. We had Johan Cruyff,
Mhm.
Naismith, Erik Gerrits with PSV. When I was playing, you had Gullit, Van Basten, Rijkaard. They were leaders.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, and Willie Miller in Scotland. Well,
Yeah.
Richard Gough, Rangers. McStay, Celtic.
Mhm.
Those were kind of leaders. But if you look at those teams, look at Aberdeen. Have they got a real leader on the pitch? I
Well,
don't think
people will
so.
say Graham Shinney because he runs around and makes
Yeah, he
tackles,
runs
but
around and those kind of things, but not a leader. We had Alec McLeish.
Mhm.
I mean, that was a leader. I never played with Willie, but in the years when Aberdeen was really doing their good job, Willie Miller was the leader of the team.
Mhm.
I think he was the leader of the club.
Yeah.
And when I came, Alec McLeish was the leader of the club
Mhm.
in the dressing room and all those kind of things. He
Yeah.
was taking care. Not, he was really taking care of the players. But when some players didn't do what he's supposed to do, Alec was there to tell him, "Come on," and not on a gently way,
Mhm.
but he told
Yeah.
you the truth. He told you the truth. And those
It's
kind of
always good
leaders,
to
you
have
don't
them.
have that anymore. You don't get. I can't find them anymore. Actually, I mean, if somebody can find them, please let me know. But I can't find them anymore.
I'm sure those that are watching this on YouTube will maybe put something in the comments about what leaders they think are in the game just
Yeah,
now.
they talk about the English. Yeah, well, I've got no idea.
You played 200 games in the Netherlands before moving over to Aberdeen. When did you first hear of Aberdeen's interest in signing you, and had you had any interest from the UK or abroad before the Aberdeen move?
Yeah, well, I had three really good seasons at FC Groningen, and I was almost I was on the list on the second list for the Dutch national team as a left midfield player. Uh, and we played the cup final. We played in Europe a lot of games, and we always did well. We could have won the league, but we lost it against FC Twente. Uh, So I had a really good 3 years with FC Groningen. Nottingham Forest was interested in me, but they didn't have the time, the chance to see me because uh, I was in the hospital because my wife was in labor.
Mhm.
And on a Wednesday later, I had to play. I was the coach Hans Westra put me on the bench because I didn't train.
Mhm.
Uh, and you know how it goes with managers. Managers are the most awful people in the country or in the football world because they take more than 20% of all the money out of the football business. And I had a manager as well, Tom van Dalen, and there were a couple of Scottish team coming in because
Mhm.
Tom FC Groningen to be honest, in my third year, and that's a fact, FC Groningen wanted FC Groningen needed money
Mhm.
because they wanted to keep the two strikers in the team. There was Annie Meyer and Mirko Durovski from Partizan Belgrade. He played for Partizan Belgrade when they beat Celtic. There was the game with Juganowski where he scored 4 goals, but they still lost. And then we played the next game against Partizan. Should have won that game, but uh, we lost in the last minute. But they wanted to keep two strikers, and they needed money because they wanted to earn half a million guilders. And
Mhm.
I was the only player who was uh, yeah, who was the kind of capital. They had
Mhm.
capital. They need capital, and so they had to sell me to keep those two players together. And a couple of Scottish teams came in, but I didn't want to play for them. And then Aberdeen came, and they had a look. They watched me 4 or 5 times,
Mhm.
and then we had an away game against FC Feyenoord, and I only played 25 minutes because somebody kicked my ankle, and I jumped off. And after the game, Alex Smith said, "Well, Theo Ten Caat is going to play for Aberdeen next year." And then it took a couple of weeks, and then just before the summer break, uh, uh, I had a phone call from Aberdeen that I had to take the plane and go into Aberdeen.
Mhm.
Obviously, I knew about Aberdeen. I've watched the games against Bayern Munich as well with Strechen and Black and Peter
Mhm.
Weir. They were my heroes, not the defenders.
Yeah.
But the creative ones, I mean,
Mhm.
I know you need defenders like Willie Miller and then McLeish and Stuart Kennedy or whatever who played in the back four, and you needed Neil Simpson but I liked Peter Weir on the left, Black, great header,
Mhm.
and Gordon Strachan. Those kind of players I liked. So I knew a bit about Aberdeen history.
Mhm.
Uh, and and then I arrived in Aberdeen, and it was pouring rain in the
Tough
Granite
approach
City.
there then.
In the Granite City, so everything was grey, and I thought, oh my God, should I live here for a couple of years? But we had a good talk. I immediately felt really good with Alex Smith.
Mhm.
We had a really good relationship. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we talked more than an hour together. He's living in
Nice.
Australia, and he's doing really good. So I gave him a book as well,
Mhm.
and so I really had a good relationship with Alex Smith. With Drew Jaffe, Jockey Scott was a bit of a probably the same character as I am. stubborn, and he was the one who gave me the first high dryer
Yeah.
against the Airdrie when I got injured.
Mhm.
Somebody kicked me in the stand, and I couldn't play anymore. And at halftime, he gave me a hair dryer, and I thought, "What's this?"
So you said you knew about Aberdeen. You've already mentioned some of the Gothenburg greats there as your
Yeah,
heroes as well.
yeah,
Um, in terms of when you moved to Aberdeen as well, you spoke about the relationship you had with Alex Smith, but
yeah.
how easy was it for you when you came to Aberdeen, having some of your fellow countrymen to help you settle in? Obviously, Theo Snelders, Hans Hilhaus, Peter van de Veen, and Willem van der Ark. Did that make life easier for you?
No, not really. I knew Snells because I played with them with FC Twente. I had a good relationship with Theo Snelders.
Hmm.
No doubt about that. But he's a goalie, and you know what they say about goalies? They total nut. They're nutters.
Hmm.
Otherwise,
Got screwed.
who else would go in goals? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
man, we always say I always feel pity for the goalies because they can't play football, so decided to to become a goalie. I mean, uh, there were five. Gilo's wanted to move. That was traded on after the game. Charlie
Mhm,
Nicholas left, and he wasn't really happy anymore. He wanted to have a move. Willem van der Ark left. I think Willem left in my first season in the winter break. Peter
mhm,
van der Ven left after a year. Gillo's left after a year. So after a year, there were only two Dutch people left. There was me and Theo Snellers. So you talk when we talk about the five Dutch, I totally agree. There was too much in the dressing room for five
mhm.
Dutch because uh, we try to talk English all the time, but if you sit next to a Dutch guy, you don't talk Dutch, English, or
Yeah.
Scottish. Let me say, I hate the
Mhm.
word English, Scottish. Uh, but I, there were some rumors, yeah, that the five Dutch were talking about other things than just football. But
Mhm,
believe me, we never did.
mhm. Yeah, I was speaking to you before we
Yeah,
recorded that when I was
yeah,
speaking to a couple of people that they said that as you say, the rumors was
yeah.
that the Dutch effect was causing dressing room trouble and discontent, but not for
Well,
you.
if there was, it wasn't the fault of the Dutch players.
Mm,
That then the Scottish players were a bit well. How do you say that? Because we never talked about the Scottish our Scottish colleagues. I mean, I had great colleagues. I mean, David Wiley, the physio, Teddy Scott. I was a lot with
mhm,
Teddy Scott. With the coaches, I was Alec McLeish, all those guys. Uh, uh, Robert Connor.
mhm,
Hugh McKimmie, great guy. Brian Irvin, a friend of me.
mhm,
Uh, Alec McLeish, who else have we got? Jim Baird, the nicest person I've ever met.
mhm,
Granty, Brian Grant, Scott Booth, Ian Jess. How can you? I mean, they're great people. They're
mhm,
still great people. I mean, I can't understand, and it's only a rumor because somebody's saying something that the Dutch are too loud in the dressing room. But
mhm.
I can tell you, we sometimes are loud,
Yeah.
but then we make jokes about ourselves.
Mhm,
We never make jokes about other people who can't understand it because if I want to make a joke about somebody, I talk. If I want to make a joke about Brian Grant, Granty, say, or Paul Kane, I
mhm.
talk English
Yeah.
because then he knows I'm making a joke about him.
Mhm.
What else? What else? What's the meaning of making a joke
Hmm.
about somebody who doesn't understand it?
Yeah. And I suppose, as you also said as well, that you thought you had a good grasp of the English language until you moved over to Aberdeen, and how probably
Aye,
quickly, and the different dialects that we speak over here as well. That was
true.
probably a challenge as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had a meal with the board, and we saw the menu, and we couldn't understand. We couldn't. I mean, reading and talking. Reading at that time was better than talking because the talking you have to learn a bit, and
Hmm.
because you were thinking Dutch, and then you had to translate it into your mind into English. If you, I
Hmm.
mean, after a year, it was totally gone. I couldn't even. I can remember a meeting with the Dutch guy, and David Johnson was there, our commercial guy, and he said, "Well, there's a Dutch guy who wants to talk to you." And then we had to talk. We were talking English, Scottish, and then I had to talk Dutch to the guy, and I couldn't come out of my words anymore. So I decided to tell him, "Well, let's talk Scottish because my Dutch is blocked now. I can't speak
Hmm.
Dutch and English together. So
Yeah.
let's talk Dutch."
Yeah.
Uh, but the menu when we arrived there was so difficult to read. So I ordered a fruit basket. I thought, oh, well, that's pretty safe. A fruit basket, not knowing what that means, sounded healthy. Then
Hmm.
somebody came with a basket and an apple and a pear.
Yeah.
And
um.
all the board and then Tove down, everybody was laughing. And they said, "Well, you can order something else, Theo." But I was too proud to say, "No, no, 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 no. I ordered a fruit basket. I'm going to eat my apple and a pear."
Yeah.
And they all had ice cream and those kind of things. And I felt so jealous.
Hmm.
But I was stubborn and said, "Well, I ordered an apple and a pear and a basket, and you can throw the basket away
Yeah.
after I finish my pear and apple."
You also spoke about the relationship that you had with Alex Smith. How difficult is it for, what were you at the time, but in general as a player, when the manager that you have a good relationship with that brings you to a club leaves 6 months into your time at the club?
The disaster. Disaster. Not only as becoming a manager, but I always say, well, you've got a manager and you've got a person. The same with you've got a player, a football player, but the football player is a person as well. And that's a thing people sometimes forget. They always think you're a player. They always think you're a coach or a manager. But under the coach and the player, there's just a normal person like you and me, Glenn.
Mhm.
And I'm not always a football player. Yes, of course, I live as a football player, but that's because that's my job. So I have to take care of my. But if I go out in the city, I don't want to be a football player, and that's the reason I felt I was stunned with the sacking of Alex Smith because I had great talks with him. He was like a dad for me when I was in
Mhm.
Aberdeen. He helped me. He helped me in any matter. Drew Yaffe as well, and it wasn't fair enough as well because uh, uh, the problem is that the people forget about one thing, and I've told that many times. The only reason because we were after 6 7 games we were top of the table.
Yeah.
We won against Celtic. We won against the Rangers. But then Alec McLeish got injured
Mhm.
on his Achilles tendon, and he
Yeah.
was out for more than well. I think he didn't even play that year again. And then Gary Smith came in as a young boy, and so we lost our leader in the dressing room and in the games. And that's from my point of view and my opinion, that's
Mhm.
the only reason that we had some bad results because we played some really good football. I mean,
Mhm.
the last game against Hibs, and Alex Smith got sacked, we played Hibs off the park, of the pitch at Pataudry. We created
Mhm.
chance by chance. I came two times alone in front of the goalkeeper. I missed, and in the last minute they score a goal. And we had
Mhm.
a couple of times during games in the league, and uh, and that's what the fans do. They only see the result, but they don't see the result. Why there is what the reason is that we had a problem, and the problem was that Alex Smith wasn't, of Alec McLeish wasn't there anymore,
Mhm.
and that's the only reason we had. Otherwise, we could have won the league. I'm positive because why? It's the same thing. We had good players.
Mhm.
We had international players. We had Theo Snelders in goal, who was there a year before. We had back four was the same, except Robert Corner was the left fullback instead of David Roberts. I came in, Garanti was there, Jim Bett was there, Paul Mason was there, Gillows was there, Ian Jess came through, Scott Booth came through. So
Mhm.
if you analyze the team, uh, Charlie Miller left probably, yeah? Did he leave after that game or did he leave? But I mean, we weren't. Uh, 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 I think we were as good as the year before.
Mhm.
But the only thing is, McLeish got injured.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well because if you kind of think, I read that article that you did in the Press and Journal about that, and
Aye,
you kind of think currently with Jimmy Tillene's squad, obviously the key players injury. You look at Sivert Nielsen currently out, Dimitar Mitov,
yeah,
leaders, experience, and how they are. But the one thing that I took from that article that you mentioned, and you've kind of spoken about it just now, in terms of fans just seeing the results. You
yeah,
spoke about that season there being a fan expectation at the time and how that was raised from the season before and the heartbreak that that season had as well.
yeah.
As a player, did you feel the pressure of the expectation going into that season?
No, no, because I didn't have influence in that season. It was a total fresh experience of me
Hmm.
playing against teams I've never played before. I played against Ajax. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't say that Rangers is a better team than Ajax.
Mhm.
Eh? Ajax won in '95 the European Cup, won the World Cup. They
Mhm.
had international top players.
Yeah.
Uh, PSV, Feyenoord. I mean, I played against those kind of big teams. I played against
Mhm.
Atletico Madrid. Uh, so, from my point of view, I just played against. I was a member of Aberdeen, and we had a good team that we showed in pre-season and in the first seven games of the league. We were top of the league. It was totally fresh league for me. I loved playing against Rangers and Celtic. They were the most beautiful games I have ever played because of
Mhm.
the intense atmosphere in the stadiums and the hatred between the fans. It
Mhm.
all made it more enjoyable to play against those kind of teams. Uh, so I never thought about that year before because
Mhm.
they lost it in the last game at Ibrox, and you can lose a game in Ibrox at
Mhm.
Ibrox. I mean, it's been when we won against Rangers 2 months ago. We showed you can win a game at Ibrox, and we
Mhm.
beat them pretty easily. I mean, we never were in danger. uh, and Rangers had a good team at that time. I mean, probably the same team who won the Champions League, the championship at that
Mhm.
time. Celtic had a good team. We won against Celtic, so we showed we had a really good team.
Mhm.
Uh, Playing against all the other teams, I mean, it was just a new experience for me, and I
Mhm.
liked it. I really enjoyed it playing against Dundee United, against Dunfermline, and all those kind of Motherwell. I hated because Neil Simpson was playing there.
Mhm. I know you only played 54 times for the club, scoring 5 goals, and, obviously change of circumstance with the manager,
I,
and there was some injury problems as well.
yeah.
I guess it's probably an obvious answer, but do you wish you were able to play more for the club? And given the time you did spend, do you sometimes find it strange, maybe I don't know if that's the right word, that
Yeah, well,
you're held in such high
I
regard?
do. I do, and that's another thing. I mean, I was before I went to Aberdeen, I was playing for Groningen, and I was almost an international player
Mhm,
because I had 3 really good years there. I was on top of my abilities. I was 26, and then you go to Aberdeen, and you had a really good first 3 quarters of a year. I scored 5 goals. I had 6 assists in
mhm,
30 games at that time. So that means that I was involved by every three goal. And
mhm,
then when Alex Smith got sacked, my situation all changed because Willie chose, and that's I mean it's I'm not blaming Willie for that. I mean it's his choice. He's the manager. He's making the decision for the club. He thinks that that's the best decisions.
mhm,
But uh, uh, it didn't do me anything good. I mean, when Willie took over, I played another 20 or so games,
yeah,
most of the time as a sub.
mhm,
So I was out of favor, as you could say.
mhm,
And but in my third year, my last year, I tried everything, and that's in the book as well.
mhm,
So I can stay a bit of the book that.
yeah,
I trained the whole holiday. I put my trainers on, and I was in the forest for every 2 times a day.
mhm,
So I was really fit, arriving in my last contract year,
mhm,
and I had the best preseason I ever had with any team.
mhm,
And but after the last training session, Drew came to me and he told me, well, there was before the first game of the league. He said, well, Theo,
mhm,
you had our, you were our best player in preseason, but uh, you will never get a game for Aberdeen anymore. So that was a little bit of a shocker because
mhm,
I didn't even spoke to the manager, to Willie about it with it.
mhm,
He didn't say anything. So Drew warned me a bit. Maybe he shouldn't have done that,
yeah,
but he felt sorry for me because I had the best. I really, I've in my 18 years career of a football player, I've never had a preseason as good as I had in my last year with Aberdeen.
mhm,
And then the assistant manager or coach Drew came to me and said, "Well, Theo, Saturday tomorrow there's our first league game, but you will not play a game anymore for Aberdeen."
mhm,
And that was a really shocker for me. And then I still tried my best to convince the manager,
mhm,
but and I spoke to him a couple of times in his office, and I mean we had good talks. I mean that's the thing is you've got the player manager, and but you also have two persons just talking to each other.
Mhm.
And it's so sometimes difficult to to divide those kind of things because I talk as a person, as a football player,
Mhm.
and he's talking as a person, as a manager. But if you finish that discussion and you sit down and you have a cup of coffee, you talk about other different things, it's all a different story. But he
Mhm.
has to make his decision. He makes his decision, uh, whatever he thinks he's good at, and I have to accept that.
Yeah.
At least I can't blame myself for anything. If Drew Yalfi says to me, "You were our best player," uh, uh, it's not my fault. I did my best. I tried
Yeah.
everything, and that's the
Yeah.
only thing you have to do. I mean, you can sit in you can sit down and and just accept the situation as you were in my second year. But I didn't
Mhm.
accept it. I trained hard and tried to make the best out of it in my third year, but Willie didn't give me a chance.
Yeah, and as you said, like a lot more about your relationship with Willie is in the book, as well. Despite obviously not getting the opportunities that you were wanting or maybe deserving, going by what you've said in that final year, you did leave the club, but despite leaving the club, you still have a strong affection and bond with the city and the club. Why do you think
Yeah.
there was or still is such a strong affection between yourself and Aberdeen, and as I said, being kind of held as a cult hero between yourself and the fans?
A couple of reasons, basically. I mean, if you, this is just, it's not a mind thing, it's a heart thing.
Mhm.
Uh, it's because I came to my family and my little son of 6 months.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing that we felt the three together, raising, and me and my wife raising a kid in Aberdeen. He went
Mhm.
to his toddler school. I mean, we met a lot of great Scottish people who we still call friends.
Mhm.
When I was in Aberdeen for promotion for the book, we met some old friends again. Uh, we still. I live in the northeast. Aberdeen is in the northeast. We
Mhm.
fight. When I was playing for Twente or Groningen, we were fighting against the clubs in the west.
Yeah.
It's the same with Aberdeen. Aberdeen standing
Mhm.
free. I mean, we've got nothing to do with the Rangers or Celtic in Glasgow or Hibs and Hearts in Edinburgh, who think
Mhm.
they rule the Scottish community. So it's a bit of a like, yeah, it's something I have in my we all I like the red color because most of the years I played 10 years in red,
Mhm.
those kind of things, and I've been many times back to Aberdeen as well, on holiday, but also with to visit when I was when I finished my career. I was the youth coach of FC Twente, and I
Mhm.
went a couple of times with youth coaches to Aberdeen to play some games against Aberdeen and Dundee United, Hibs, Hearts, and
Mhm.
had a good relationship with Chick McClelland, who was the head of youth, and with Neil Simpson, of course,
Mhm.
who I call myself, who I call a friend. So I came football wise. I came a lot of times over to play with with my kids, with my players against Aberdeen players.
Mhm.
I did some training sessions for the Aberdeen Youth Academy a couple of times.
Nice.
Yeah. Uh, so that's it. I mean, I love the city. When it's now 4 weeks ago when I was in Aberdeen, and
Mhm.
from the first time I entered the city, it's kind of a sort of homecoming.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
city that's stayed with you, and yeah, I used to work with Chip McClelland as well, and
yeah.
absolutely
Tim McLaren
uh,
is a great
great
guy.
guy.
Great
Hmm.
guy. He's a gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, he
Um,
passed away.
Sadly, yes. You do mention as well. You said you were back in the city 4 weeks ago. That was for your book. You did a signing event. Um, as I said, you're here to help promote your book. I know we've spoken about kind of parts of your footballing career through the last hour or so. Your book,
Yeah,
Standing Free, is out now. It's said in all good bookstores. I'll put the link in the description for those watching
yeah,
here on YouTube or on audio as well, and where to buy it is also available from the club shop website as
yeah.
well. A lot more on your relationship with Willie Miller in there. Also, a bit more in depth detail about your time here in the Granite City as well. But any other little bits of nuggets that fans can expect from your book?
Well, it's a story about how I grew up in the northeast of Holland. As a little kid, I was always the smallest one, and I had a lot of problems on school as well, being bullied away sometimes. And I had my fights when I was young, but luckily I had two escape routes. I was always the best one in sports and especially in football. So
Mhm.
when we had sports or football, I was always picked first. That helped me a lot. It's the story about the small club where I started, Hodo. And when I left Hodo to Overveen, there was a little of, well, let me see it, say it in this way. Uh, when I was a professional football player, the people in Overveen looked at me and stared at me because they knew me. But in my own hometown, they looked me and they didn't stare at me. They looked me with their back in kind of there they didn't want to see me. They thought I was I don't know what they thought, but I was. Well, those kind of stories are all in the book. The stories about all the football clubs, the managers. It's kind of a story of my life,
Mhm.
which I uh, had from when I was born until my last game in football land, in professional football land,
Mhm.
when I was 37, in my last game against Veendam. And it's a book. It's not only a football book. It's a book about relationships, because people believe that being a football player or even a sportsman, it's all about the sport, but it's about relations. And relations makes. I mean, we talked about the five Dutch guys in the dressing room
Mhm.
with all the Scotties, and there were rumors. There was nothing wrong. Well, those rumors, they can you can put them in anywhere. Put them in the D or the Don. Uh, Nothing true about that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's about relationships you have with players, and obviously, I mean, we are characters, and sometimes characters don't fit, but as long as you respect each other, there's nothing wrong. And that's the way I am. I respect people's opinions,
Mhm.
even if I don't agree with them,
Yeah, and
because
I think
everybody
that's
is
the way most
different,
people should
and
be.
that's also a big issue in the book. It's it's also a book good for not only for football players or football supporters or football fans to read, but also for even businessmen or whatever. It's how to create an atmosphere where you respect each other,
Mhm.
but still, even if you have a different kind of view about how to work and and think about other things as well. So that's really a thing. And I've told some juicy stories as well. You can laugh about it. I mean,
Mhm.
big story about Roy Aitken,
Mhm.
uh, who became the assistant. I said that, I mentioned that it was in the newspaper as well, but because when Stephen Glass took over, he took his friends with him. He took a friend
Mhm.
with him. What's his name again? It was a Celtic man as well.
Scott Brown.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You can't have a co-manager or a player manager. You can't have in the dressing room because it doesn't work because the players don't trust assistant manager,
Mm.
player manager. Because uh, I know it out of experience.
Yep.
Because sometimes if you train or you sometimes say, well, that's a fucking shitty training session. What did we do now?
Mm.
Huh? You complain. That's what sports do. It's an emotional. It's nothing personal. It's an
Mhm.
emotion. And if one
Yep.
says something, the others agrees, and then you've got a discussion. And then 5 seconds later, the whole discussions about what the player said was with the manager.
Mhm.
So it doesn't work.
Yep.
And that's what I said as well when Scott Brown came in as a friend of Stephen Glass. When he was the manager, I said, well, it doesn't work. No assistant manager who is playing as well. I mean, it did cost me the semi-final against Celtic when I played a really brilliant game the Saturday before against Partick Thistle,
Mhm.
and I played a heck of a game, and then 10 minutes before the end of the game, I get subbed. And Jim Bett told me, well, Theo, there goes your semi-final. And it
Mhm.
turned out to be true because Roy Aitken only played 10 minutes in the game against Partick Thistle. He played against Celtic because he was a Celtic guy.
Mm.
And those kind of things are. So there's a bit juicy.
Mhm.
I just call them by name, not only at Aberdeen, but also at Twente. I had my fight
Yep.
with Van Alst and Erik ten Hag and
Mhm.
other players. I had laughs with them. It's all a big story about a guy, a little boy from a small town. It's a small town boy. That's a song as well.
Yeah.
Small town boy growing up, becoming a professional football player, and probably he was too nice to uh, to make it to an international football player, and that's what other people say as well. People
Mm.
feel you were too nice, otherwise you would have become an international top player.
Well,
It is how it is. I'm happy with my career. I had lots of fun. I had lots of fights, and I love to fight.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well, I can only thank you for your time this evening, and giving us an insight into some of your life. And as I said, for those that want the juicy gossip, including why you owe the
yeah,
people of Orkney an apology, to encourage them to go out and purchase your book. But Theo, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this evening.
you're welcome, Glenn. It was my pleasure.
And it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. So we hope you enjoyed that bonus content this weekend. We will be back next week, reviewing the action from this weekend and previewing the trip to Ross County. But until then, thanks very much for tuning in.